Making my husband attend a black tie work event. My husband, 39M, and I, 40F, have been married for 12 years and have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 5. I was a stay-at-home mom for most of our kids' lives and only re-entered the workforce 2 years ago when our middle child reached kindergarten, so we didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for daycare. I have worked my way up the ladder in my chosen field of work and finally feel like I am more than just a stay-at-home mom. The company I work for holds a big black tie gala for a Christmas/holiday party every year. Last year we were unable to attend due to me being sick, so I was really looking forward to it this year. My sister even agreed to drive 3 hours to spend the night with the kids so we didn't have to worry about a babysitter. I bought a nice fancy dress and my husband rented a tux in preparation for the event last Friday. Then, the week of Thanksgiving, my husband's favorite uncle passed away. My husband didn't have a relationship with his dad growing up and his uncle didn't have kids of his own, so his uncle was definitely a father figure for my husband, even if it was in more of a funkle way. The funeral was held the week before my work event, but because it was held in another state that required a flight, only my husband attended. When he got back, I talked to him about it and he said he was sad and grieving, but also said he was fine. Nothing about his day-to-day stuff was out of the ordinary, and he did take a couple days off work after he got back to have some time for himself to process things. My sister arrived the day before my work event, and that night my husband told me that he didn't feel up to attending the event. His reasons were that he was socially and emotionally exhausted, and the last thing he felt like doing was making more small talk with a bunch of strangers like he had to do at his uncle's funeral. I reminded him that my sister had just driven hours to watch the kids, I had already bought a new dress, he had rented a tux, and most importantly, this was something I was really looking forward to. He said that I could still attend by myself, but I told him that it is also important to me that he comes with and that we hadn't had a date night in almost 6 months. He agreed to go, but he sulked about it the entire time. He dragged his feet getting ready, he didn't socialize, he didn't want to dance, etc. At one point, I lost track of him and found him sitting at the bar by himself. When I went to talk to him to try and get him to come socialize with me, he told me that he already told me he has no energy for that and that he only came because I made him. I told him that if he was going to just sulk and drink alone, we might as well leave, and he said great, let's go. I told him how disappointed I was that he acted that way at an event that he knew was extremely important to me, and he got defensive and told me it was my fault for dragging him there when he didn't want to go. He's barely spoken to me since, unless it's about the kids. Comment 1. Unfortunately, I think YTA. While I can certainly understand the excitement of attending an event, and the disappointment of it falling apart, with your sister driving and all, your husband deserved to grieve. Additionally, while he may not have been social, you still had the opportunity to be. I think the jab about him sulking was a bit much. Weirdly for me, the thing that bothers me the most about this story? You guys haven't had a date night in 6 months? And you made all this effort for a work event? Including having babysitters drive in? I think you need to prioritize your relationship more. Work events are not a date night, emo. And maybe if you guys spent more time together, the communication would be better and you'd have talked it out by now. Comment 2. Could your sister not have gone as your date? He was honest, and it was beyond just I've had a busy week and I'm burnt out. His father figure passed away and he needed to travel by plane to attend. I know there were a lot of factors here in you wanting to go, but this was no normal circumstance that led to him being off. On this one. You should have had your sister come with you if you didn't want to take someone in mourning. Comment 3. YTA. I'm sorry, a work event isn't a date night. At such events your partner has to put on their best face as they represent an extension of you. That's not to mean they cannot be fun, but if you want a date night, take your husband out. How could you expect your husband to have fun after such a devastating loss when basically means he has to put effort on for the duration? You should have taken your sister instead. Taking my mom on vacation during my friend's destination wedding? I, 28F, am friends with Ruth, 30F. We have been friends for 8 years. We met in med school and became closer during COVID after we stayed in the same city for post-med school training, residency, until I left to finish residency in another state/city closer to family a few years ago. She's having a destination wedding in the Dominican Republic at an all-inclusive resort. I am chronically single and Ruth has been engaged for 2 years. I am attending as a guest, not bridal party, and received my RSVP last month. I had mentioned the wedding to my mother at the time, who expressed the desire to also come with me. In the moment, I told her that I didn't feel comfortable asking Ruth for A+1, the RSVP was for me only, since it's Ruth's wedding, but my mom said she only wanted to go to the resort and would do her own thing the day of the wedding, EA spa, entertainment, as we'd have time to do stuff on other days. She said she'd pay for the trip, which was appreciated, but I would have no problem paying for just myself or both of us. Because of my busy schedule as a general surgery resident and limited vacation time, it seemed like a reasonable compromise. My mom also said that she might change her mind about going and to let her know when I was planning to finalize tickets/lodging, which I was planning to do in the next few weeks, December 2023. Last week Ruth reached out to see if I'd booked my room and if I'd be interested in staying with one of her single girlfriends. I told her that I was planning to book everything in the next few weeks, as I was waiting to confirm if my mom still wanted to go to the resort, but that she would not be attending the wedding festivities. Ruth then said that I should have asked her if I could bring my mom to her wedding. I reiterated that my mom would not be attending any of the wedding festivities, just the resort. She said that I should have run it by her because she wouldn't have wanted to feel obligated to invite my mom to the wedding festivities on the spot during the wedding. To be honest, I can see where she's coming from, and I told her that nothing was set in stone. I then agreed with her that I should have told her about it from the beginning. She was very upset about this, and I apologized profusely as I simply didn't think about it from her perspective. Ultimately, I said that I was happy to go by myself, hotel included. A few days later she told me that she didn't feel valued as a friend and uninvited me to her wedding and effectively ended our friendship. I'm saddened that it came to this, and I do agree that I should have simply asked ahead of time. I think we're both a-holes, but that her response was a bit severe. Comment 1. NTA, your friend is the big R here. She had no right to insist on being informed of your mom going to the resort at the same time as her wedding. Did your friend email the resort to demand that they have to turn away any guests that weren't invited to her wedding, as well? Your mom wasn't going to the wedding festivities. She was simply going to enjoy the resort by herself and spend some time with you. I hope you don't have to work with that demanding woman. And I hope she's a better doctor than she is a friend. Comment 2. NTA. That was a massive overreaction on Ruth's part. Makes me think she planned on putting the other guests with you all along and was just waiting for her to RSVP. Her anger was being caught out not informing you of her plan, so she projected her guilt on you by accusing you of doing the same. And made up everything else to pile on. I don't know if anything is non-refundable. I hope not. But either way, you and your mom should have a great vacation. Too bad Ruth isn't a real friend. Make sure you get a refund on her gift. Comment 3. NTA. Your friend's response to finding out your mom was coming is bizarre to me. You were clear to her your mom would not be attending any wedding festivities, therefore her traveling with you has nothing to do with Ruth. It would have had zero impact on her or her wedding. Furthermore, Ruth isn't paying for your trip, so she doesn't need to have anything run by her regarding it. She did a fabulous job of turning a non-problem into a problem, and it's really sad that she felt this was horrible enough to end the friendship over. Saying something to my Bill about his mom while at the hospital for my nephew's birth? My M28 sister and Bill just had their first child a few days ago. It wasn't a funny happy day because of sister's Mill. The whole pregnancy hadn't been a good time because she's had to be the center of attention. She was always saying my baby, and at the gender reveal, she was front and center hollering it's a boy. While jumping up and down waving her arms in front of everyone. You could tell it really bothered my sister. The day my nephew was born, My sister said that she only wanted our mom and her husband in the room with her during the birth. His mom came unglued saying if she couldn't be in there then our mom couldn't be either. My sister's blood pressure was dangerously the whole day because of her. The handful of us in the waiting room basically had to keep her corralled the whole time. Any time there were any updates, she would make sure to be the first in line to hear it. We were all tired of her by the time the baby came. I get that she was excited to be a grandma, but we all thought she needed to tone it down a big notch. She had to be first in the room and literally butted me out of the way to see him when they brought him back from cleaning him up, and when the nurse asked who wanted to hold him first, asking my sis or Bill, she butted in me and tried to take him from the nurse. Someone had to grab her and tell her to calm down. You could hear my sister's monitors beeping fast. I'd personally had enough and pulled Bill aside and said that he needed to get his mom under control because we're about to go off on her. He didn't take that well and we all ended up being kicked out of the room, and of course his mom was throwing a tantrum because of it. I just went home. Now Bill is mad at me and saying I am the one that is stressing my sister out. I don't know what to do in this situation. He can plainly see what his mom is doing and can see how angry his wife is, but he does nothing but gets mad when someone else says something. Edit: my mother and Bill were the only ones back there with my sister during the birth. Everyone else was in the waiting room, myself included. His mom rarely sat down and would go peek in the window of the door every now and then to see if anyone was coming with any updates, and we'd have to tell her to come sit down and be patient. Comment 1. Yeah, you just saw what everyone else did. A glimpse of the horror show that is going to be your sister's life. While commendable that you had the decency to try and defend your sister in her vulnerable state, this isn't a cause you can champion. While you had proof they'd cut the cord on your nephew, it sounds like Bill is still strongly attached to his. Your sister is in for an uphill battle with overreaching grandma. Keep in contact with her, not so much her husband, and offer her the support emotionally she's going to need while she deals with this. Worst case scenario, start looking for an escape plan if she mentions doubts about the marriage. Comment 2. NTA. He knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't a surprise to him. He's looking for someone to blame other than his mom. You're it. Don't back down, though, because you know what the truth is. So does he. So does your sister. She's going to need people to back her up against Mill, especially if Bill isn't going to do it. Comment 3. Your Bill is a mama's boy. It was his job to make sure this birth was as comfortable as possible for his wife, and he failed to protect her. His first job as a father, and he failed miserably. Your sister was entitled to decide who was there for the birth. Not your Mill dictating. She needs putting in her box. He won't do it. You are NTA. Unless Bill grows a spine, I give them a couple of years max. Staying with my parents and refusing to come home unless it is in the condition I left it whenever my in-laws visit. My husband cannot control his family. Or at least he refuses to. When his parents visit and give us SH for forcing our kids to do chores, he gives in and the house slowly becomes a mess that I have been left to clean up. When his siblings visit, we are expected to clean up after them. I never agreed to this, so now I leave. I lock my office up and go to my parents' house. I meet up with his family at restaurants or other public places. His parents have learned now that when they visit they have to clean up after the kids or get them or my husband to do it. They tried saying that I was abusive for refusing to do housework while they visited. So I posted a picture of my home before they came and one I took during their last visit. I asked them why the house was so messy and dirty and did they have anything to do with it. They said it wasn't their mess. I replied that the house was clean before they showed up. Once they started getting dogpiled for messing up my house, they threw the kids under the bus. They said my kids were uncontrollable and it was their mess. I pointed out that there was no mess until they came, so obviously my kids were able to clean up after themselves when there weren't people telling them not to. My husband's siblings have cancelled plans to visit because they know I won't be there to clean up after them, or cook, so they will have to cook or spend money on takeout and restaurants. Great outcome in my opinion. My husband says that I'm being unfair putting all the work of cleaning up on him. I said he has 2 children to help him as well as adult guests who should be able to not make a mess. I also told him he could just pay a cleaning service out of his discretionary funds if he wanted to let his family run rampant and not clean up after them. He said that I was being mean by not contributing and making him spend his money. I asked how much he normally spends on cleaning the house. The answer is nothing, since the 4 of us keep the house clean and tidy when we are our own. Comment 1. NTA. Actually, your way of handling this is brilliant. The rules should clearly be that all adults pick up after themselves as a matter of course. They are human, not monkeys at a zoo. All children are in training to learn how to pick up after themselves, and of course the training doesn't stop just because the grandparents or the cousins come to visit. It is to do with a certain grade of civilization. Non-civilized people may not want to pick up after themselves, but other people may choose not to associate with them on any level. Comment 2. NTA. You have a husband problem. Not an in-law problem. Yes, they are messing up your house. But that is because your husband won't stand up to them or back you up. The easiest solution is to tell all of them that they have to stay in a hotel when they visit you. No more freebies. No more maid service. Until things change, go enjoy a nice visit with your parents when the in-laws roll into town. Smile. Comment 3. Like everyone else, I really love your solution here. But I think you have a larger problem. The amount of pushback you're still getting from your husband about letting your in-laws dictate how to raise your children gives me some concerns. Even if you found a way to avoid the messiness problem, until he learns how to stand up to them on his own, there's always going to be another in-law problem around the corner. NTA. But in need of some couples counseling.